Well guys, it is wing time. Welcome to the Composite ARF F-100 aircraft build or assembly series, whatever you prefer. And it's time to get these huge wings underway. So without further ado, let's dive into these beautiful wings. So this is the wing, the left wing that we took a look at to begin with. So what I did when I got this aircraft is we pulled the cover plates off, just taking a look at everything. A lot of it's pre-done, so we've got our mounts already glued in there. We've got our blind nuts already installed, which is awesome. That's cool to see. May have to do a little bit of shaving there to fit the servo, but that's great. Just because weight, this aircraft has external surfaces. So in the first few videos, there have been some comments, people saying, oh my gosh, the world's coming to an end. Well, not quite like that, but pretty much. Oh my gosh, the world's coming to an end because this aircraft doesn't have internal linkages. Well, this aircraft is under 25 kilograms if you build it light. That's the whole point of this aircraft. It's simple, it's huge, and it's light. If CARF started adding all of that stuff, the weight's gonna go up. Even our chute mechanism that we added in the back end in video number 3, I think it was, that's gonna add some weight, right? So that's the reason for the external linkages. If it bothers you, get over it. It's not your aircraft, it's okay. So we've got all the external linkages, which are done. Our hard points are done, or our mounts. We do have to do a little bit of sanding and stuff to allow clearance for the rod to go in, but that's no problem. One thing I've noticed here is, I'm not sure if originally CARF did this, but we've got the spacer block added for the electron retracts, which is awesome, so that's good. And yeah, so pretty straightforward on the wings as a whole. I think we will, obviously our light's going in here, which is no problem. We've got another light on the top side, we need to figure that out. The biggest issue or struggle with this aircraft is our drop tanks. Drop tanks, I think, mount right in this area here, and that is a massive job. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get the wing done as far as like the gear, the surfaces, all that stuff. I have a sneaking suspicion that the drop tanks will be its own video, so we'll get into that later on. But with that, let's pull all of our parts out and kind of get a game plan going here. All right, so gonna get my head wrapped around this gear first of all. And one of the first things that I'm taking a look at here that I like to take a look at is the sides of the fuselage. How are they in relation to the center line of the aircraft? That's kind of an important thing just with setting up your landing gear. So if we take this square and tuck it in like this, you'll see that so according to the center line of the aircraft, I'm squared off on the wing tube. So the forward portion or area forward of that wing tube is wider than the back. You can see there. So the fuselage compared to its center line naturally has more of this angle like this. So what that means is when we're putting our landing gear in, if we were to level it with the root of the wing, it's actually going to have toe out. And we want to have just a little bit of toe in, which is important because it helps your aircraft track straight. So now if we come to this wing and go like this, we can see that exact same thing. So the leading edge of the wing, or the area forward of the wing tube, is telling us exactly the same thing. So if this is the center line of the aircraft, the forward portion of that wing is going like this. So when we get our gear set up, we can use this edge of the wing as a reference, but we need to make sure that we counteract to that edge of the wing. So if we're a couple degrees like this, or like this, it does make a big difference in how the aircraft operates. So if we were to pair it up with the root of the wing like this, it's gonna have toe out. We wanna be a little bit on the opposite side. So anyways, a little bit of a techie thing for you, but it is an important thing. So I'm going to get my, my electron controller set up and the manual controller. And we will play around with this gear and see how it fits in the aircraft. Now, one of the things that's important on an aircraft like this is you are dropping the landing gear when you put this plane together. So you want to keep that in mind. So there's a little electron box. Because of the age of the manual, this one shows the older version, but essentially they operate the same. But here's the manual controller. So as it says in Matt's manual, at the flying site you need to plug directly into the gear and drop the landing gear. So that's an important thing. You'll have to do that. And yeah, totally fine, but just something to be aware of. The gear does not slip in the openings here. So, all right, so I think the position of the landing gear is pretty straightforward. Looking at some of the online pictures, it looks like this is tucked forward. Now, they're not using the NGs, and this is a custom gear for this aircraft, but it definitely looks like that is the right spot for it. So pretty simple installation with these gears retracted all the way. If I take this door setup here, it's very nice to have this all pre-done by CARF. So if we take that, obviously we can't go any further this way without modifying the door setup here. So right now that trunnion is almost touching the door assembly, and we're pretty much all the way forward or all the way outwards that we can get. So yeah, so that's pretty much the right spot. We're just going to get this centered against the wood formers. So we've got so much nice wood built up here. Wood screws are a great option for this, so we'll use some nice big, probably number 8s or number 10 wood screws, whatever we can get that fits in there. But key thing first is just getting this in the right spot, and we're really close. All right, so our first retract is installed. What we're using to fix these guys is number 8x1. And these are also Robertson heads. So if you're in Canada, you know this. If you're in the US, you may not know this, but it's a square head. So Robertson number 2 works very well, doesn't strip, it's awesome. So anyways, let's take a look at this gear. The gear itself isn't fastened, it's just floating in there. We've got it sort of centered. Nice. And then one of the things that I was checking here, getting this bolted down, is that our door actually sits down, which it does. So that's awesome. Wonderful. And then we'll come back out. Very nice. One of the things I did here was there's really no wire path. So unless you're running your wires to this location right here, there is no wire path for this aircraft. So we've got maybe a little hole right here, but that doesn't do us very good. So let's take a look at how this is laid out. So we've got that hole in between our fixing bolt and our anti-rotation bolt. So our fixing bolt is here, anti-rotation bolt's there. So we've got like 2 little holes right here. I don't want to have anything run in the gear area. So what I did was drill a hole through this guy, just a small little hole. We're going to run our wires forward and then over. So our gear wires, they're going to come through a hole right here, over this side, and then forward and over. So that'll be good. We'll have lots of room in the base right there to do that. That actually brings us to this location right here for our wires. So that's fine. We can fit everything we need right in this spot right there. So if we take a look at this wing and just count things out, we've got lights on the end, so that's 2. We've got 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So one 12-pin connector will work for these wings, which is nice. There's no leading edge, obviously. Let me just confirm that. We've got 2 on the gear, 2 on the brakes, 2 on the lights. Yeah, so that's good. So we've got 12 in total, so one 12-pin ash lock on that side is going to be ideal. All right, now normally I would do one wing at a time, but what I'm doing is I'm doing everything to this wing, the left wing, and I'm repeating everything on the right wing. A little out of format for me, but this whole project has been. So anyways, this gear's bolted in, we'll do the other one. All right, so we got the gear installed on both wings, and it looked kind of like it was close to the back end. So I just want to make sure that everything is going to fit in this fuselage. So we've got a wing just installed. It's not bolted down or anything yet, but this will let us see how our spacing is in the fuselage. All right, so there's little cutouts on the side of the retracts there, so that's where the leg is just rubbing against the black part of the retract. Okay, so paying attention to this now. Awesome, okay, that actually fits really nice in there. That's no problem at all. Definitely a cool angle though, like when this thing's retracted, check that out. I don't know if we're exactly centered, like where we need to have the wheel pointing forward and backwards, but it's pretty stinking close, so. Nice. That's awesome, that's beautiful, very nice. So sometimes like on the L39 that I built from CARF, a few of them, the gear opening's pretty specific. It needs to be, you know, very accurate. This one has a fair bit of room in there, so I think you could be off a little bit and not have an issue. So I was worried because the gear kind of looked like it was tucked too far backwards because we only had a few millimeters clearance between the door, when the door's on here, and the leg. But if we actually took this and angled it forward more, then we'd have clearance issues right there. So that looks like it's in a really good spot, so beautiful. Okay, so just spending some time sorting out our hardware here. I'm making a couple changes. The kit came with, so like these guys are, I think, for the ailerons, I believe, which would be these ones right here, those longer ones, which is fine. But we've got ball joints on this stuff. So the ball joints are great for this double setup like this. So that's perfect. That's what we'll use on this side. But with our servo arm not protruding out of the surface, we want to have something that's a little bit skinnier that kind of fits in there. So I'm going to use a clevis. So these are MP-Jets clevises. This isn't the correct size, but this gives you an idea of what we're using. So this is the MP-Jets clevis, and this is, yeah, the right-hand one, 2 millimeter pin size is what it is, with 3 millimeter metric rod, regular threads. So anyways, that's what we're using on this side. So we're going to use a MKS carbon arm. So this guy right here, this is the brass keeper one. And we've got a couple different references online, but we're going to be using the 20 millimeter end to end. And in the manual, the CARF manual here, it says use a 3/4 inch size, and 20 millimeters is basically 3/4 inch. So we'll get rid of that last hole, sand that guy down, and that is where our clevis is going to go into. Now the nice thing about these clevises is they jive with these holes perfectly. So this is a 2 millimeter hole. The other thing about a clevis is it's very, very strong because it's supported on both sides. And then in the ball joint case right here, that's also supported on both sides. So that's what we're doing for the ailerons. We've got that sorted out. Flap servo, we're probably, depending on alignment and stuff, we're probably going to use the ball joint, which is fine. I just need to sort out the servo arm size on that guy. But we've got a plan for the aileron, which is good. All right, and we've got another little addition to the shop here. This is, I call her Cinder Block, but the girls want to call her Cinderella. If you guys are fans of the channel, you know Nez is normally out here. She's kind of mad right now because of this new one. And yeah, so anyways, Cinder just showed up to us with a cat distribution system. That's a bit of a joke, but she just showed up. So we live on an acreage, and our father-in-law lives in the basement suite, and he went out early one morning and she was behind our house on the gravel road. The gravel road it's our private road on our property. Anyways, we brought her in. She weighed like 260 grams, I think. And she just tipped the scales at 400 grams this morning. So she was abandoned. We've had her now for about 4 days since getting her and recording this. And she's an absolute sweetheart. So if If you're a fan of the channel, well, now we've got another black cat, and she's pretty cute. So anyways, there she is. I don't want to share a ton on our regular videos, but I'll talk more about it on our live, and that's a good time to promote the live here. So if you guys are fans of the channel and you want to see our live videos, check out our other channel, The Lighter Side of RC After Dark. The After Dark is our live stream here from the shop. In the wintertime, we do it like every 2 weeks. Summertime slows down a little bit because we're out flying and going to events and stuff, but we'll talk more about Cinder Block here during the next live that we do, and I'll tell you guys more about her and how malnourished she was when she came to us. So yeah, here you go, buddy. All right, so we're working our way from the outside of the wing now that we've got everything laid out. Obviously we got the gear done, but we're working our way on the outside of the wing inwards. Reason for that is when you put your light in here, as an example, it's got to go to the aileron pocket and then to the flat pocket and then to the root of the wing. So it makes sense to go out and work your way in. So I've sanded our tip off here where the little lens build out is. What I did was I marked the length of our lens with some white marker and then just used my block and kind of took some time and shaped that. Took my Dremel with our end mill bit there and carved out the inside. So now this light will fit inside there beautifully. Now these are a little bit wide on the tips here, so once we get this installed and glue in place, we'll touch that tip up because there's a little bit of white showing there on the blue, so that'll be really easy to touch up. Just a little sliver along there, but those will fit nicely. And these lights are pretty simple for the tips. They're just the green and red LEDs. There's 3 on the front there. So anyways, we're going to get that installed, run that to our aileron, and then we'll work from the aileron inward. Now to prep these lights, this is pretty much the same thing I do on all of them. I cut the end off of the Unilight just after the little additions there, the capacitors, and add our extra wire. This wire goes all the way to the root, and then that'll be tied into our ash lock connector at the root. All right, so I'll show you the changes and tricks that we use here for the aileron servo. So first thing, arms installed, centered at 90. We're not going to be doing the linkage up until we get our connector done on the root of the wing. So this is just sitting here for alignment. Now when that servo goes in, the 599s in that pocket, there's a little bit of play in there, and that allows us to get this arm essentially centered in here. So the clevis will have no side-to-side force. That's why the arm's sitting on here, but it can come off now. Change the bolts here, the fasteners. So I tried the stock ones with a washer. They're too long. So the stock ones are just a 3mm Allen head setup. So switching those out to these large pan heads. There's a little bit of a shaft at the bottom there, or a shoulder. And so I took my reamer tool and opened up the hole in the carbon holder just a little bit. And you can see here they're a little bit shorter, so these actually fit better. Those ones don't fit, they hit the top of the wing surface. So that's one of the changes we had to make. And then with our servo, I put some goop on our mounting tabs down there, put the servo in, and got our tab or our mounting plate installed. Put a little bit of goop on the sides, a little bit on the back. So if this ever does need to come out, we can get it out, but once this is all cured, it's going to be rock solid and not move. And it just allows a little bit more insurance instead of just relying on that tab to hold it in place. So just something a little bit extra that we do. So this is pretty much ready to go, other than opening up the slot a little bit. So we could leave this where it is and use a ball joint on this side, but then we'd have to open it up on this side. I'd rather just open it up a little bit on the other side to allow the clevis to clear this slot. So that's what we're going to end up doing. These clevises do clear the slot if you get it perfectly centered, but there was no way for us to get that servo centered in there, so we do have to open up that about 3 or 4 millimeters on the other side. All right, so both wings, we've got our lights installed, we've got our aileron servos done, so those are all run, and all of those wires, including our gear up-down wire, are run to the flat pocket. So next thing I'm just doing, just because, is doing our Loctite on our landing gear. So this is one of those critical things that you want to make sure you do because they're not done from the manufacturer. So if you look at this wheel assembly, took the 3D parts off the end, and we've got some fasteners on the inside to take care of, and like our main fixing bolt here needs to be done. So there's a few little things to do on these gears. So getting those done. And then once those are done, I'm going to kind of work on our wheel angle and our brake line running. So the brake line running, I'm not sure yet where I'm going to run that. I may go to an area like this. But what I have to do is I have to kind of run that brake line down and see where it's naturally happy and how it works with the gear doors. So that'll be one of the next steps to do after we finish our Loctite. All right, guys, so I'll show you the brake line setup that we've done here. So obviously all of our bolts and everything are Loctited, that's done. Haven't done this to the other side. I'm doing all this stuff to this one, and then we'll go to the other side. But wrapped our brake line in snakeskin and shrink tube on both ends. Haven't done that end yet. These keepers I print on my Bamboo Labs printer, and so I've installed 5 of those guys coming down, and we've got the line going down. This last one is CA'd. So this lead length from here up is fixed. So if this compresses, you can see the excess is in this top one. Reason I CA'd this bottom one is so that this loop stays like this. So the reason we want to do that is to keep that brake line out of the way of the trunnion and everything right here. So I'll show you guys what that looks like. So when this collapses, you want it to fold out of the way like that, and then come up. So that's why we have the lead CA'd right there. And we've got 3 keepers down here. 3 is excessive. I put this first one in, second one, third one, and that's just the way I did it. So anyways, this side is pretty much done. Now I'm just working on centering the wheel. Now one thing I've noticed here is that the leg, so the actual strut, hits the landing gear right here. I think you might be able to see that little bit of black that's rubbed off. So I actually need to, now that I've tightened this down, I need to do a little bit of sanding right here on those corners. It looks like they're already done. They're chamfered on the edges there, but we need to go a little bit more with that because the gear doesn't retract. So I'll show you here. So the gear just hits the strut right there. When this was loose earlier, it was working, but now that we've tightened it down, it's sucked it down. Anyway, so I've put our tape on here, and I am in on the leading edge 1 centimeter, so 10 millimeters along this entire wing. That's to compensate 5 millimeters for leveling everything out, another 5 millimeters for toe-in. So 1 centimeter, and we are bang on perfect in alignment. So this tape joint, all I do is take this carbon rod. This is one of the carbon rods for mounting the drop tanks. We hold that on the rim because it is a solid spot. And then I just look down the tape line. It's going to be hard to show you guys, but look down the tape line like that. We match up the back and we can see the front there. So anyways, we are in a good alignment. We've got just a little bit of toe in. So that is set up perfect. So what I've done is I've taken my Allen key and we're just tightening these guys down. And this is going to mark the strut piece that is sitting in the trunnion. So now, and on this particular gear set, we've only got 2 set screws on this side. There are holes on this side, but it's very, very shallow, and we don't want this to interfere with the gear, but I think it would be nice to have some set screws in there too. So now if we pull this out, we'll undo our brake line. And that's the reason I cut this brake line as well too. I'm going to put a standard servo connector right here where it goes into the little slot right there. So when we pull this off, we should have some nice marks. Now we may not have to flat spot this leg because this joiner piece is actually aluminum, but it's going to get quite a bit of bite there. But I think we're going to add a little bit of flat spots there anyways. We've got a nice mark there, so I think adding the flat spots will be easy. All right, so my preference is to set up our flap servos outside of the aircraft so we can get everything matched up properly. So we know that this position here, this is our left servo, right servo. So we know that our left servo and right servo, this is the full flap position. So the arm would be straight like this and the flap surface would be fully deflected. So what I've done previously to this is I taped our aileron center and got our flap centered roughly and basically did our travel. Now whatever our travel is supposed to be, like, I don't know, whatever that number is, I did it on a ruler, and then I took our angle finder and set that angle up. So now when we set these flaps up, we're not using this measurement, we're just using the angle, and the angle will allow us to get these perfectly even with each other, and we're measured right beside the control surface there. So this is our measuring point right there. The actual angle that we're using is like 48, 49 degrees. That's what the measurement works out to be, and that measurement's actually at the root of the flap, not the aileron to flap. So anyways, that makes things a little bit more simple. So when our servo is straight like that and our linkage is in line with that servo arm, we're going to be in this position right here. And then when we go to flaps off, that position right there-ish. These are all just random positions just to get the servo moving the correct direction. So take off flaps, full flaps. That's probably way too much throw in both directions, but gives us an idea and a good starting point. So we've got our flap servo done up here as well too, or flap servo lead, sorry, and all of our other leads. So we can get those guys run right now, and then we just need to worry about installing our flap and getting our control rod set up. Now our actual hole through our gear cover here, we can probably do afterwards unless we need to do a little bit of trimming here, but we're gonna get it set up with this off because we wanna be able to slide that on and off without having to do anything on the linkage. So working on our flap setup here, and had to do a little bit of trimming. Of course we have to do the trimming here where the rod comes out of the gear cover, but we also need to do a little bit of trimming on the plate here, which is totally expected. That's kind of what I was figuring. So I did most of that with a hand rasp, just to take it nice and slow. And then once I kind of got my layout done, I used an aggressive Dremel bit. Anyways, we've got that sanded down, and then now I think we're good. You got to remember that when this arm is straight like that, that is in the full flap position, right? So if you're trying to get it adjusted in this position, it's not going to work. And then when the servo comes this way, it works a lot better for flaps off because it raises that rod up. So anyways, I got it fastened on the servo side. It's a little bit difficult because you have to have the rod in there, put the servo in, do up the screw, and then I'm going to do all my adjustments on the length and everything with it in the airframe. So that's why I have it sitting the way I have it. So the servo's also not fastened right now. Just wanted to get all the sanding and stuff figured out. All right, so the left wing here, we've got our flap all set up. So that's done. So you can see here the flap up or off position. Our servo arm is almost at 90 degrees-ish, be kind of about there. So the servo holds it in the off position, and then when the full flaps are engaged like that, then it is in the mechanically locked position. So yeah, so that's great. We obviously had to do some sanding here, sanding there to allow clearance, so I just kept that as minimal as possible So we're just clear of the cover plate there. So that is wonderful. Next thing to do is to get all of our screws attached. Now the factory only installed 2 screws just to hold this in place and probably get it fit, but we want to install screws around the perimeter here. So I'm going to get that done. Then we need to get our wiring done at the root to get the door set up here, because we need to be able to retract and extend the landing gear. So now I've done everything to this wing so far. I haven't done anything to that other wing yet. We've left off with Loctiting the wheels and then running gear and everything, but I just wanted to rock and roll on this guy. So this is kind of how I normally do the process. So anyways, we'll get that guy screwed in next. All right, so a couple things with the doors here, guys. The geometry on the doors is quite tricky. When you look online and the manual and the build threads and stuff, you'll see this done multiple ways. On the CARF website, you can see some pictures of this linkage installed on the forward side of the gear and the forward side of the doors. Problem I found with that is when this retracts, it pulls the doors back this way. So I spent about an hour and a half working on this one gear door. I basically had to go on the back side like this. Went with a different ball joint, not the big CARF one with the wide spacer. So this is a C-Craft 3mm one, nut and bolt obviously. And then on this side, I had to get that linkage further away from the leg. And what I did there was use a longer 3mm Allen bolt, a couple C-Craft brass spacers. The washer is there just for that little bit extra that I needed. And that's as good as I can get the gears to close. So it closes nice and tight on the leading edge, but without all this manipulation, if you just went here to here, it was terrible. So I don't know how the other one's gonna end up, but that's just how we had to do this particular one. So just keep that in mind. You may have to play around a fair bit. So other than our cover plates and linkage for the aileron, the left wing is complete. And working on the right wing, we pretty much have everything matched up. Just working on the linkage here for the flap. So I just wanted to show you guys what I do in this case. So I got everything sized. This has been put together already with linkage and checked and everything. And of course, we were checking that against our measurement on the first wing. So that's where this angle finder is perfect. And once I get this set on one wing, I won't touch it and I'll handle it very gently because it does move and flex. I'll handle it very gently until we're done with it. So, so this linkage is set up perfectly. And the other thing I do is when I glue this together, I always glue the carbon rod to the metal rod, and I use Hysol. So I use 9462 Hysol, and once this cures, it is absolutely rock solid. I don't know if that's a normal thing that people do. I've been doing it forever since I've been into jets. And to me, it just seems like a great way to do it. So your linkages do have to be cut perfectly and sized and all that, because I like there to be no metal exposed. So right now, if we tighten that ball joint all the way down, it's perfect. So I'm going to get this installed. Again, we'll confirm that we're in the right spot with the flaps and moving closer with this right wing. All right, so left wing, with the exception of our drop tank and scale bits, is complete. So one of the things I do here on the tips is we had a fair bit of the pivot rod for the aileron sticking out. There's an example right there. So I just mark that with a Sharpie, cut it off, and then I'll take a little bit of goop and just put it over there so it's kind of flows over top of the pivot or the rod, and then it's held in place. Not that that rod's really gonna stand a chance of coming out. It's a pretty snug fit, but it's just a nice way to secure that and not have to worry about it. Our aileron surface on this wing is done, so we used the MP Jets clevis on the MKS carbon rod, which is a beautiful setup. Nice and solid, zero play in there. The stock carbon covering over the 3mm rod, glued in place of course, and the stock ball joint. Now the manual, the online manual and some online resources talk about the amount of travel you need on your aileron. Now there needs to be a pretty significant amount of differential on this. So if we look at the numbers I used here, so up aileron, and these measurements are from the flap neutral, so right there. The up aileron, so that direction, is 22mm from the flap. The down movement is 41mm from the flap. So that's how we have that set up. So in the radio, I reduced the servo travel a little bit. Also dropped my dual rate from 100% to 80%. So it's a bit of a mixture of both, and because we needed a significant amount taken off. Now there's really not a good way that you could put a shorter servo arm on here and make this work, because at your 41 millimeters of down travel, you're almost bottomed out with the clevis. Now I guess if you use the standard ball joint on here, it would be a little bit more free and you could go with a shorter servo arm, but then you're also not in a straight line, you're kind of coming out at this angle. So anyways, it's gonna work great, and this wing is basically complete. So we're gonna do that exact same stuff on this side, on this aileron surface, and then the wings will be almost done. All right, so I'm gonna share a couple of the details here with you. Some of this stuff I will leave out of my, my videos because they're kind of like my top secret things, but these are kind of obvious things, but I'll share them with you anyways. So if you put a bolt that's too long in here, the gear shaft will bottom out on your bolt. So you could put a bolt that's quite long in here and you'll get 3/4 of your travel, but this leg, if the bolt is not interfering, actually travels that entire distance there. It's quite progressive, so just keep an eye out for that if you're building one of these. Other thing I do with these little E-clips that go on the clevises like this, I put a little drop of rubberized CA on there, so if you ever need to get that clip off, it'll come off, but just make sure that that doesn't fall off. So now I can put that guy together. And those are a couple little tricks for you. And you know, it's been a while. It's been a while. So those two tips have been brought to you by Trusty Bent Screwdriver. Thanks, Trusty. We haven't had a tip time in a lot of videos. All right, guys, both wings are now complete for the functional stuff. Just give you a shot there of the little bit of shoe goop that we put on the tip. I use black, of course, because it blends in, and then you can see here the shoe goop just rubs off once it's cured, so it does come off. So that is the functional parts of these wings, which is absolutely awesome. They're beautiful, they're huge. It was definitely an interesting challenge putting these things together. The doors were definitely an interesting struggle. And we did get our CARF parts, our ball joints, which if you've been following along in the series, this is the part that we were missing. So anyways, we got those for the elevators or the horizontal stabs. So that is wicked that we have those in stock. So that, my friends, wraps up video number 6 in the build series of the beautiful composite ARF or CARF F-100 aircraft with wings completed. Huge step. Obviously drop tanks are the next biggest massive step. I'll tell you, we've got quite a tight timeline. Today is Tuesday. I go to Towfield Jets tomorrow, so I'm gone basically, let's just say Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm gonna come home late Saturday. Sunday, we've got to finish the F-100, and then we've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday evenings, Thursday, Friday, Saturday to finish the CARF Rebel Classic back there. So lots to do, and then we're headed down to Montana to have some flying down there. So it's a jam-packed next 2 weeks. I'm excited and quite overwhelmed, which takes a lot to get me to that point. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching the videos. Thank you for supporting the channel. Channel members, thank you as well too. If you're watching this and you're wondering what channel membership is, links down below. They get to see our videos early. So thank you, channel members. Thanks guys for watching, and we'll see you in video 7, where we're gonna do drop tanks and continuing on with the details on the F-100. I'm very excited to see everybody at Turbines and Tumbleweeds in Sweetwater, Texas, October 2nd to October 5th, 2025. See you there.